So I thought about it, and the model we're going to be rigging is the one that you've already used for some animation. And this is convenient because you already know approximately what we're going to get at the end of the process. It will be a pretty simple rig. We will have some basic legs. We'll do a reverse joint leg. We'll do a straight FK arm, and we'll do an FK spine. I don't think we'll get too fancy there. And we'll just do some basic rotation for the head. We may try facial rigging, but I will bring in a different model for that because facial rigging gets really complex really quickly and takes on a slightly different workflow. Just so we're all familiar with the model before we start, this model is pretty straightforward. It's a low poly base. I've put in a couple of extra edge loops at the elbow, like so, to ensure that this area rotates correctly. I've done the same thing at the knee, and again, that's just basic. I've also got a few edge loops here at the ball of the foot, this one, and this one. So that is another area where we will be able to focus on getting some nice bends in. This is a basic humanoid biped, so we will be doing a left leg, a right leg, a left arm. This is the left arm. This is the right arm, and then just a spine and a head. We will walk through the whole process, starting with building a skeleton, and then binding it to the skin. We will go through weight painting, and then at the very end, we will make some controls. Along the way, we will write a couple of scripts, and if I look at this file, across the top I've got this custom shelf set up, and this is the rigging shelf that I use. So on it I've got delete history, I've got a combine, I've got a freeze transformation, and then all of these things are scripts that I use in the rigging process. As an example, this one will allow me to make custom curves that I use for rigging. I click on this CRVS button and I get this little floating window. With the floating window, I can make an arrow curve, a double arrow, a 4 arrow, a box curve, a circle, and this one here that says IK, FK, which we're not going to get to. We're going to keep our lives a little bit simpler. I've got others that I use here. This one, as an example, will allow me to limit the amount of rotation that certain objects can do. This one will limit translation. This one will connect objects so that when one object rotates, the other object rotates. This one will make constraints, which we'll talk about in a few weeks. And this one will change the color of various curves. So we will talk about scripting as part of this unit. And just to let you know, if you want to start setting up a custom shelf of your own, all you have to do to add things to your shelf, let me add, modify, center pivot. I am going to Control, Shift, left click, and that will add a little icon for center pivot right here to my shelf. The last thing I'll talk about with this file is that I am giving you a few things. One of them is my character geometry, which is on a layer. You will find that this layer has been set to reference, so the character is unselectable. We'll be adjusting these settings so that we can do certain things with the geometry on, or templated, or, regular selectable. So it's there for now. I have a layer that I can put the skeleton on when the time comes, another layer for my reverse joints, and a layer for my control curves. Over here in the outliner, I've got a group node that is holding the name of the character. So if this character had a name Let's call it Lieutenant Tube Person. That's where the character's name would go. When you select this node, you'll note that it is completely locked, so it can't move, rotate, or scale. That's something we'll talk about later. I've also got my geometry inside a group node that just holds the geometry. As I go through this, I will be adding more groups to hold my skeleton and my reverse skeleton and my controls. So being comfortable with your outliner before you start is a really good way to just organize yourself and get through your scene. So before you start anything, just take a moment, go through the outliner. It's very simple right now. It will get more complicated. Go through the layers. Again, they are very simple right now. They will get more complicated. And take a look at the character. This is not the best edge flow I've ever made on a character. If there's anything that you want to change, go right ahead. You could do things like add more loops at the ankle, fix up some of the n-gons that I left here in the pelvic region. But by and large, this is a decent low poly character. So again, take a moment, become comfortable with the scene, and when you're ready, join me in the next lesson where we will start working with joints.